Okay,
Be
good.
on your toes, people. On your toes. Here we go.
Are we on our toes?
Live from Houston, Texas. It's the Ginger Cook. What's the name of the Monday show?
Cookie Crumbs, I think.
Well, we're going to change these names. Cookie Crumb Monday with Ginger Cook.
Okay, good.
Oh, wait a minute. I got your mic on. Hold on.
Are we on it?
There we go. I had too much stuff going on here.
All right, we got all our mics done. Everybody can say hi. Good evening,
Yeah,
everybody.
you can say hi.
Hey, you guys, this is fun. You know, when we do shows every week, sometimes it's really fun to try and think of new things and interesting things and helpful things that you guys might want to know how to do. And the reason it came up with it is I see a lot of people trying to do trees. And I'm telling you what, we're gonna talk about the anatomy of a tree. We're gonna talk about things that you need to know about a tree, and then I'm gonna show you how to paint a tree in under 10 minutes. Okay? But first, we're gonna understand, and you'll be able to do it too. You know, so what if I can do it? I mean, you'd expect it after close to 50 years of painting stuff. If I couldn't do a tree in 10 minutes, how sad would that be? But I want you to be able to do a tree that quickly. And I'm going to show you how to do it, because the thing of it is everything is patterns. You've got to think of painting as a language. And everything is patterns, okay? And so once you understand the pattern of the tree, then you can just knock these things out. Most of the time, when you're talking about like fingers and hands and people and things like that, most people's memory isn't so great that they don't actually need to look at something. But once you understand the pattern of a tree, you probably can make it up. Not that it doesn't hurt to have a reference. I'm all for references, okay? So we want to welcome John Little. He's our executive producer, co-owner of GingerCookLive.gallery. He's the magician of computer technology that makes this show possible and also keeps our website going. You know, he works about till 3 every day on the website and programming. And for those of you who are members of GingerCookLive.gallery, John just introduced a great new feature called bookmarking. You can now bookmark your place where you are in the video and then come back and find it. How cool is that? So that's really helpful. You know, it just kind of saves time. So let's not waste a lot of time. I want to just thank everybody for coming. Thank our moderators. We have Wendy and Kim and
I've seen Kim go by, and we have Art House, who used to be Medina or Sandra. She changed her name to Art House.
Okay, well, thank you. Our moderators, in case you guys don't know, the moderators kind of every once in a while, people will, the YouTube will just flash that someone's gone live, and then their job is to just come and disrupt everything. And the idea behind this program is not just to teach you how to do a tree in 10 minutes, but we're going to show you also how to take that knowledge and paint some other stuff. We'll also do a little painting too, but the idea is that you can ask questions of the artist. You have firsthand questions. Just type in capital letters. The moderators kind of help us see your questions. If a lot of chat gets on there, it goes by pretty quickly. John doesn't always see it. We'll play an art trivia game, which is called Stump the Artist, where we have a die and we roll the die, and we ask questions of our audience. Can you stump Ginger? And mostly you can. You know, I always think I have a lot of art knowledge till one of these questions comes up, and I'm going, I've never heard of that artist. Who's that? But anyway, we're going to do that. So let's get down right now to the table, and let's just talk about trees. Okay, so the first thing we're just going to talk about, kind of your standard oak or, kind of full tree. And the first thing I want to show you is the anatomy of a tree. So John, if you would be so kind as to zoom in on this, right? What you've got, and of course I don't have any glasses on. John's going to have to give me the glasses off to Sammy.
Do that before I zoom.
What you've got to do when you look at a tree like this is straight up and down right here, okay? That's straight up and down with my pencil. But you see, the tree doesn't quite go straight up and down. Do you see that? Oh, thank you very much. Here's my glasses. The tree doesn't quite go up straight and down. It goes and then comes in, and it's almost a little crookedy. Okay, that's my word, crooked. Or it's a little bit crooked, but it's going up there, and then it wise off. Do you see that? Into two things, and then from there it wise. So what you're constantly seeing is wise and wise and wise and wise. All right, and notice that this may sound very basic to some of you, because I know some of you are fantastic artists and wonder if I'm going to show you something different, but I may. Just hang in there with me. But notice that as the branches keep getting thinner and thinner, and you see this sort of almost oval pattern. So there's a real thing when people are really new to painting a tree, if they make it all green, for instance. One of the first rules an art teacher told me was birds should always be able to fly through your trees. Rule number 1, birds should be able to fly through your trees. And you see in this case, of course, there's these little spaces where birds could fly through. Now here's another example of a similar kind of tree in the wintertime. And again, now this is a little bit lower, so it's Ying here. The main Y is here, and then you see another V here, another V here, another one here, another one here, another one here, another one here, and so forth. All right? So again, you see it, and as they go off in sections of these little sections of these like tiny little spidery branches coming out on the sides. Okay, let's see if I can show you another one. So I can't drill this home far enough. Now here's a nice one that's a little simpler, where it's again not here straight up and down, and you see it's got a little bit like little bumps on it. Okay, but it comes up, and here's our main V. Do you see that? And again, this is crooked. It goes this way, this way, this way, and then when it gets up to the top, excuse me, it really starts to V all the way off there, or Y off there. You see this, and this is coming up. So really, if you can draw the letter V, you can pretty much draw a tree. And a Y, the letter Y and a tree, you pretty much been drawing trees your whole life. You just didn't know you had to connect all that stuff. And some Ys are fatter than others. So once you put it into the term of a letter, so let's turn it upside down for a minute. Now you can really see it, can't you? Now we've got almost an A. Do you see that? Depends if you, but again, the pattern. You've got to keep the pattern in your mind. That's what's really, really key here. It's a pattern. So I managed to print out these pictures. And one of the reasons I'm able to do that, and this is just a happy hint from you, about 2 years ago I discovered, and no one pays us to say this, HP's got this colored printer. They got about 5 now on Amazon, Hewlett-Packard. And they've got this ink program where you can use unlimited ink and all the colors you want for like $5 a month. And I think you get like 100 prints, and then it's really cheap. It's so cheap that you can, nobody wants to use their color printer because it's just too expensive. You can just print to your heart's content, because when they offered this program, they weren't counting on artists happily painting printing out colored pages. So anyway, do we have a link to our website to that printer, John? Do we? I thought we did.
We did at one time.
At one time we did put a link to that printer, but I mean, we're not trying to get any credit for it. We're just saying if you're one of these people who just like to go through and click and print, but you've just restrained yourself.
No need to do that
No
anymore.
So that's why I print out pictures for you guys when I can. I try to print out pictures. Now the other thing I want to talk about is tree roots. Okay.
Before you go on to that, can we go back to a question Ruza has? But why is it bad to keep the letter V or Y pattern? Back on your trees, I guess you said it was bad.
I didn't say it was bad. I don't think I said it was bad.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't say it was bad. I said that's what you want to be able to do. You see, you want to be able to just keep it going, but get thinner as you go up. Okay? You just want to know that that's what it's going to do. It's going to V and Y and V and Y and V and Y. What you don't want is a three-prong. See if I can hold it with my hands. What you don't want is a three-prong thing. You want Ys.
You want Ys and Vs.
Ys and Vs like that, but you don't want a three-prong thing. You don't want, like if the middle finger was my main tree trunk, you don't want 2 branches coming off exactly like that. Want to avoid that. Always have one that's a little lower coming up, like my thumb here, like this. See, you could do that. Like, see where my thumb is?
Yeah,
but you wouldn't want you wouldn't want that, okay? So now,
family show.
Well, no, I'm just trying to keep the hands moving. Okay, so now think about this. Now, what happens is if you turn the tree upside down, this is what's happening in the dirt. Underneath, it's all growing in the soil. It's kind of an upside down tree. So if you look at tree roots, they're doing the same thing. One of the hardest things when you're trying to draw a tree root that's looking straight at you, if you'll notice that it comes off at an angle. Do you see this? And if it comes straight down, then it angles out and angles out to the side. And there's going to be a dark section and a light section. So one of the things what makes a tree look different than, say, a flat stick? Here's a flat stick. Here's a ruler. Well, flat enough, right? So we know this is, it's not round, okay? But a tree's round. And how, as an artist, do we say something's round? Well, you have to have a light source. So sometimes you'll be, thumbing through looking for reference photos. I looked at hundreds of them trying to find a photo with a decent light source on a tree. For instance, like here. Now here I can show you. See, what happens is when you have a tree that has foliage, all right, what happens is the darker colors are underneath, okay? And then, just imagine that it's nighttime, okay? Imagine it's night, all right? So what would happen to this tree at night? You wouldn't see any of these light colors. Everything would be dark, right? You may see the outline against the moon, but it would be dark. So when the sun comes, what happens is the sun's up here somewhere, and so it's shining the light on the top part, but underneath are these holes. Now see here where the birds can fly through the trees? So here's a section of the tree. It's back in there underneath. It's dark, and then here's a light spot, here's a light spot, here's a light spot. Light spots. And so when you paint it, you've got to paint it like that. But it's very hard to construct a tree like that if you don't understand the skeleton. Even in art school, one of the things they do when they're having you draw people is they have you draw the skulls. So it's hard to sometimes paint a face if you don't understand the structure underneath it. So that's what we're doing, okay? So that being said, let's see, which I think was fairly good. Right? That being said, we're going to actually paint that tree. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to do that in 10 minutes. But I wanted to show you, this is a tree that I did just on the computer. And I wanted to show you the example. You've got a tree that's coming up like this, and then you've got a light source. So this part of the tree is a little lighter. It's not a striped tie. So you've got to kind of have some parts lighter than others and kind of, indicate just not two stripes. And then you start with your dark branches, your dark foliage, and then you start with your next bit of green, and then you start with your next lighter green on top. And that's the pattern. And I really don't care. It can be a lot of different kinds of trees, but it could be a flowering tree. But the dark colors are always underneath. The darkest colors, which you start with first, and then you put your lighter colors on top. And if there was snow on top of this, the snow falls straight down, so there'd be snow piled on top of this. Really wouldn't matter, okay? Whether it's leaves or snow or whatever. So that's the pattern. So what we're going to do is now that we've said that, I'm going to just take a quick chalk and just draw what I'm talking about. So if I'm saying that I liked this tree, some aspect of this tree here, right? I might say, well, I know it's coming this way and coming down like this and then coming out like that, okay? And then remember, it's going to be wider at the bottom. So what I might do is just do some dots like this, not try to draw it in, and then, okay, so see if I like that, right? Then I'm going to dot this up like this, okay? And then it's crooked. One of the things I see people do is they'll do branches like they're spaghetti. No. Okay? So I'm just trying to get rid of bad habits quickly. So if we're saying that this came like this, even this branch here might come out to the side like that. And even though it almost looks straight when you paint it in, and then it's still going to fork and fork and fork and fork. And when you're doing something like this would almost have to be done as a pen and ink drawing, could be done as that. Or, with fine, if you're going to put all these branches in, that just takes time. It's doable, but it's not hard. It just takes time, okay? So let's go ahead now that I've kind of explained that. And then, like when you're coming up like this, if you're saying that this is the outside of the tree like this, and this is coming up this way, and then it's all coming up here. And then maybe I have another big branch coming this way, okay? I'm just going to now starting to make it up here, okay? So that when I start to do my foliage, okay, it's coming in clumps like this, okay? Maybe there's some foliage here like that. But remember, it's kind of like that, okay? Then I've got another one here maybe. And what about something that's coming? If there was a branch here and there was foliage, I wouldn't see it. So maybe I've got some coming this way, and then this is connected here somehow, okay? Maybe I've got something, maybe there's something from behind the tree, because remember, there's got to be branches from behind the tree too. So that's basically, and then if I wanted to keep coming up here further, I might say that there's something coming up here like that. But understand that the light's going to be coming, let's see, I've got my let's see, I got some colored chalk here so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So if I'm saying that all this is dark here underneath, okay, like that, the light colors have to be on top, okay, because your sun's coming from that direction. So once you understand this, then you're not, this will just make, look, you'll be able to just sit down and knock out trees. You're going, really, truly, you'll be able to do it. It'll be really easy. So let's take a, all right, so let's time it, John. Can I do this in 10 minutes? Can I paint this tree in 10 minutes?
It's a 10-minute paint.
Well, let me
Is
put
that
the
after
paint.
you get your paints out,
Let me
though?
put the paint out. So what I think, one of my favorite tree colors are, and I want to show you. This is a painting that I've done recently. Okay, and I'm going to tell you after I do this, I'm going to show you how to do something like, not the whole painting, but I'm going to show you how to maybe do some multicolored fall leaves where you're keep piling up the colors. That's one of the things I'm going to show you how to do. So look, we've got just some this is 6x8, and what we've got is just some little canvases that we've just been coloring on, and I've grabbed a couple. And I'm going to take some phthalo blue because we want to be able to make green, some ultramarine blue. You know, if you're trying to remember how to make greens, and I never buy greens, we always make them, ultramarine blue is the color of the Atlantic Ocean. And then when you mix yellow with it, it makes army green, like camouflaging tanks. Think of West Point over there by, upstate New York, that kind of thing.
Can you square up the palette in your squares, please?
Sure, right there.
And slide it a little bit over the other way.
There, sure.
There you go. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
So, anyway, and here's a little yellow oxide. Probably don't need anywhere near this amount of paint, but we might use this for the other stuff. Some cad yellow medium. These are just colors that we have on hand all the time. I paint with these all the time. I've got a video on YouTube on all my paint colors, and these are pretty much, just, you don't need, people always say, well, I can't afford all the paint. Well, if you learn to mix colors, you pretty much can, certainly make it more economical than buying everything in the store. All right, so here's a little bit of burnt sienna. That's a reddish brown color. Burnt umber is, and somebody says, what kind of paint are you using? This got asked the other day. What I'm using is Matisse. It's from Australia. Jerry's Artorama sells it. They don't give it to me. I have to go buy it just like you do. This is my Jerry's Artorama T-shirt from when I used to teach there in Houston, and I got tired of getting paint all over my clothes, and so then I started painting paintbrushes and all stuff on the T-shirts. And I've had this T-shirt for probably 10 years, and it really, you can paint on your clothes too. It works like a champ. Okay, so then because if you're anything like the rest of us artists, sometimes you'll be painting something and you have to change and go out to dinner or something, and then you see something on the painting and you think, I can be careful. I'm in my good clothes, but I won't get any paint. I'll be careful. Maybe it's kind of like paint roulette, okay? So while I'm putting the paint out, let's ask a quick question here with let's play a trivia game. 3. John, number 3. We got a 3 question for us?
I'm sure that we do. 3 is a win. Love wins.
Okay, this is from an art trivia game we found on Amazon, and there were just like about 800 questions or something, and we thought it might be fun to, we've been doing this for a while now. Everybody seems to like it. So if you're one of those newcomers, they're going, what are they doing? Honestly, gosh, I just want to learn. I didn't come to play games. Well, if you want straight learning, go to our channel, Ginger Cook Live, or our website, gingercooklive.gallery. And there's over 300 lessons with no trivia games in it. Just straight, this is how it is, folks.
And no me either.
And no John, nothing. Just membership for a week starts at $9.95 and goes up from there if you want to. And monthly membership comes with personal art dealing, art coaching. So if you're really serious about learning, don't want to play games. All right. So next
Question.
Yep.
Could Paul Cézanne have taken aspirin?
Could Paul Cézanne have taken aspirin?
So you have to know 2 things.
When did he live?
And when was aspirin invented?
And when was aspirin invented?
Or made available to the general public?
Well, did you know I read something interesting?
Yeah, what's that?
Just related to that? Back before the wall came down, and maybe some of our friends over there in Russia will tell us that, but back before the Berlin Wall came down, during the Cold War, I was told that aspirin was very difficult to get You could get it, but it was very difficult to get.
I wonder why. After the war.
Right during very difficult to get. So the question is, I don't know when aspirin was made, but that's a good. What are our students
What are your
saying?
choices? Yes or no?
Yes or no? Yes, the choices are yes or no. So you guys, how many? Who
Is that
thinks?
the question you're going to ask me?
Yeah. So I'm going to say.
You want to hear what the general public's saying first?
Yeah, I want to hear what the general public's saying. What are our fans saying?
Tonya says no, and Rhonda says yes. Kimson says no. Suzanne says yes. Diane, no. Marty, yes. Marty, yes twice. Marcel, no. Tammy, no. It's a mix.
All right, so it's kind of half and half. So the question is...
It was about 50-50.
Well, Paul Cézanne, lived around the turn of the century, 1900. So the question then becomes, was that...
when was aspirin invented?
When was aspirin invented? And, they didn't get penicillin until after, I think it was World War II. But I think they probably had aspirin, so I'm going to say yes.
The correct answer would be yes. Aspirin was discovered in 1853, and Paul died in 1906.
Wow.
If you guessed yes on that particular answer, give yourself 1,000 points.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so let's start the timing now. We're going to put a tree in, okay?
Wait a minute, I got my timer going
You get
here.
the time in. We're going to try a 10-minute tree. I promised y'all 10. Didn't I
Do you want
promise
me
you?
to tell you when 10 minutes is up, or just wait until you're done and tell you what you did?
Yeah, just wait till 10 minutes is done. Tell me what I did. Start the timer now, okay?
Started.
Okay, so
You're under the gun.
okay, so I'm going to come in here like this and just
A tree in 10 minutes.
tree in 10 minutes or less, right?
How do we know he took aspirin, Gail? He had headaches.
Well, aspirin's made from willow bark. I know that. It's made from
Is
willow
that an
bark.
appropriate question for today?
Yeah, from willow bark. And here we're doing trees, so that was almost a channel question, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So I'm using a little ultramarine blue and burnt umber for the trunk. I never outline a tree. I always, kind of give a vague idea of how fat I'm going to make it, and then just give it more width. I'm using a little ruby satin silver angle brush going over the chalk like this. And what we're doing is we're giving it some skeleton branches like that. That brush is too thick. Let's try a smaller one like that, since I want some. There we go. I want some smaller branches. This would be good. These Picasso pens, I got to tell you, those Picasso pens, they will paint over dried acrylic. They come in brown, and if you were doing some really tight, intricate tree branches, kind of like that first sketch I showed you guys, if you were doing that, that might be a fun one to just come back with one of those Picasso pens and kind of just draw on all the little branches. Okay, something I'm thinking that might be sort of nice. Okay, just saying. Okay, I like tree roots. I like a tree that has tree roots, and so I'm going to throw those in there too, like that. Okay, so you see, I'm just kind of making almost a Halloween tree here, and I'm going to give it a little bit more trunk here. Going to thicken it up. This is why I don't like to outline them.
You kind of redesign it as you're going.
I'm just kind of making up a tree here as I go. Once you've sort of decided how they go, then it's easy enough to do that, okay? So I'm going to say the light's coming from this direction, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a light source. Let's see, where's my rags? Here. It's good to have a rag right next to you when you're painting, so when you get paint, tap off the excess paint like that. I'm going to just indicate some bark and a light source. I'm going to say that the top of the tree roots are going to be lighter than the bottom of the tree roots. Does that make sense? And let's just, there we go, like that, something like that. Okay, so we've got our tree. Now let's get some foliage going. So ultramarine blue, yellow, little dazzling purple, maybe a little phthalo blue. Let's make a nice dark branches. Now I'm going to sit here and we're going to use little brush strokes like this. We're going to come around. Think about a bonsai tree when you're doing this, okay? And let's see, make sure I've got that. There's my dark color coming through here like that. And let's come back this way, maybe through the tree like that. Now the thing about acrylics is they're so forgiving that you can get away with an awful lot with acrylics that you couldn't do. If you were doing a watercolor tree or even one in pastels, you'd have to give it a little more thought than what I'm doing now, okay? You just would, okay? But let's just say
You're under the gun, going for the big points.
We're going for the big timer here. How am I doing so far?
You're doing marvelous.
Aren't I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying that this is, but basically notice the brush strokes are almost straight little dashes with a slight curve to them, okay? That's the, and I'm using, someone's going to ask me, well, what kind of brush is that? And I'm going to say it's a Ruby Satin Silver 3/8 inch brush, angle brush, which I use from almost everything. Okay, now, okay, so there you go.
Hey,
Let's see.
Sherry would like to know, why do you prefer rags over paper towels?
Paper towels do not have the absorbency of a good terry cloth, an old towel. And if I'm using a palette knife, then I really want paper towels, because gobs of paint and it's a mess and I throw them away. But otherwise I can wash and use these cloths again and again. And then actually we put some in our auction recently. Congratulations to our auction winners, okay?
Yeah, the
right.
first round of auction has completed for the Imagination
Cloths.
We'll have another set of 8 available on the next auction, but the first round seemed to go very well, and everybody's pleased with the software that we have selected.
All right, do you see my nice little bit of green? I'll put a little burnt sienna with it to turn it more celery colored. Okay, wipe off the brush because I got too much paint on the brush. Just want it on one side. Now look, light's coming on top here. So look, we're just dropping this on here like this, see? See, we're dropping this leaves. Let's put a little more red in that. That's a little bit too bright. Tone that down like this. Think about it, just topping on the top here like that. Little touching. So people think it's like stars or something. You're just putting dots anywhere. You want to have some of the leaves should be smaller than others. You know what I mean? You're overlapping, but as you get out into the purple area or the sky part, you might want to have just some lone little leaves that are a little bit smaller. Okay, now yes, we can layer all kinds of colors like that. We can, like this, and let's see, let's put a little more red on this side of it. Make these a little bit darker. Here we go. So we're coming under here like this. Okay. Now here's the thing: you don't want to panic if you happen to accidentally get too much. You lose some of your under color, your dark color. You can put it back, but you want some of this dark color to show. In other words, you definitely want some of this little dark color to show. Okay, now let's take some white and yellow, and let's come up here with now this is the next layer. See, like that? This is the next layer. And now we're going to play with the light a bit on here like that. We're going to just play. It's third layer of light. Maybe we're going to have it trip over here like that. Trip across here. See how we just played with the light just tiny little bit? Now what I might do is then take a little bit of burnt sienna into that green color, make more of a moss green, and come over here and wipe most of the paint off the brush and just come on the top of these tree roots like that, and suggest that there's some, let's make that a little bit darker. Suggest that there's a little bit of green coming up. You know how that happens sometimes on tree roots, and maybe even a little moss on the tree coming up here like that would be all right. Thank you. And let's see. Want to lighten this up. Maybe I'll take a little bit of orange. Tell me if I'm running out of time. How am I doing? Am I still under 10 minutes?
You're still under 10 minutes. Would you
All
like
right.
to know where you are?
Yeah, I'd just like to know where I am. See, I'm
7
going
minutes.
to,
You're at 7 minutes.
I'm at 7 minutes. So see, now I'm adding a little bit of color to this here like this. I could come back with some dark
Looks
and
like ginger
add
in it.
some branches if I wanted to. You know what I mean? If I felt like I needed some more branches, I could come out like this and let's see, like this, and just maybe add a few little branches coming out this way. If I wanted to make this a little bit darker on this side, it's a little bit of purple here, just a little bit of purple and ultramarine blue, darken up my tree in a couple places. And all right, so voila, you guys, we got a tree. How did I do? Under 10 minutes, right? And you can see how
did it under 8 minutes.
8, and you might want to come back and kind of darken the tree roots a little bit, like that. Just darken the tree roots, and there's your tree. This is not tricky to do, okay? And then if you just want a better pattern, I mean, you can follow. Find an old dead tree like this, and then put some leaves on it. Again, when you see this now, does this make sense? Do you see how this tree? I mean, it didn't make it as full as this one, but and this one's got some foliage coming farther down, but you can see that can you see the difference? You can see how we made these trees? You might make this bigger here or whatever, but that's how you do a tree. And once you understand that, you don't have any trouble again. You got to start with the dark colors first, and you can't do these lollipop trees. And again, if you wanted to come back and you looked at this and said, okay, now I know I need a little bit darker under here, or I missed something. Or now this is the other thing you can do too, is you could say, well, let's take a little purple, and I think you did a little bit, there's some purple, right? Just some purple and white. Now suppose that the birds couldn't fly through your trees. Well, could you come back with a little of the sky color in places and erase something? It's acrylics, you guys. Yeah, you can. How cool is that, right? And I kind of like that purple color too. See, part of me would keep painting on this tree forever. I'll just stop, but that's your tree, that's your tree in 10 minutes, okay?
No, 8 minutes.
8 minutes, all right.
8-minute tree.
8-minute tree.
So if you came to see the 10-minute tree, you're now welcome to leave.
Yeah, so you're okay. So now if you came to see how we did it, that's how we did it. And again, I want you to look at these tree roots here, right? See these here that are all kind of green? Now I want to just show you how I would do that, because I like those tree roots like there, those bright green ones. So maybe I might come along here like this with some light green. Remember, acrylics are so awesome because once things dry, you can do all kinds of stuff, right? Like that. Maybe I wanted some bright yellow. I mean, look at that. Just lighten something up here with the tree roots. And then if I'm saying that's there, this is there. See how pretty that is? And then I'm going, oh, but then what if I put a little bit of this brighter color up here? I'm just saying that, you can play with this, dry it in between, and really pop out, some interesting colors on a tree. Here's a little bit of light purple and burnt sienna and white. I'm just going to say what would happen here if we said I wanted something a little bit lighter right here. See, going up my tree trunk. See? Where does the light happen? Because there's going to be some shadow from the branches, right? So where does the light happen on your tree? See?
Now, does this count towards your 10 minutes?
No, I'm just showing you how you can take a 10-minute tree and turn it into an hour if you want to just fool around with it, right? I'm just saying that you can keep going.
I just want to make sure we're missing anything here.
No, you're not missing anything, but I'm just saying that that's how you do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how you do it. You'd come up here and as you keep layering, because that's what you can do with acrylics. You keep layering, and everybody goes, wow, what a pretty tree. It's a language. It's like, what was it they said that if you wanted to learn like Spanish, there's like 4,000 words that are the same in English and Spanish, and I think almost the same in French, and you already know both back and forth, and you just need to know the connecting pieces. You know so much of this, okay? You just know so much of this already, and somebody just had to explain it so your mind clicked on it, okay? Make sense? So anyway, that's how we did our 10-minute. Do we have any questions about that?
No, they're just simply amazed. And why are you moving the palette?
I give up. Why was I moving the palette?
Put the palette back.
Okay, so now I want to show you this. I wanted to show you the big one and the small one. I want to show. Once you understand how to do this, let's move our little 10-minute tree out of the way. I'm going to move it I wanted to show you. This is the big painting right here, okay? And I did this as a sketch, all right? Do you see that? I did this painting as a sketch, and they almost, look at that. They almost, see how this painting just melts right into this one, doesn't it?
Here we go.
Isn't that interesting? So this was my sketch that I did, and then I turned around and I made this large painting. Now this particular painting will be the release for our members at Ginger Cook Live this Thursday. We have the whole tutorial of how to paint this, all right? But tonight, we're going to take a section of this section right here over something dark, and I'm going to show you how you take this same nifty tree trick and make it into fall leaves, okay? I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? And then we're going to invite you to maybe come on over and come over to gingercooklive.gallery. If you really like this one, this was a 9x12. You might want to paint it. I think you might really like it. I think it was a good painting to do. Also, tomorrow night we're going to be doing this tomorrow night on YouTube. This is our sunflowers and a glass vase with purple background. We're going to be painting that on 8x10 canvas tomorrow night. So if you wanted to get ahead, you could paint a canvas purple. Okay.
They were asking about the peacock that you mentioned last week.
Oh, I did it, and I can't stand it. I painted it, and I don't like it. We can show it to you, but I don't like it. You're welcome to chime in, but I didn't like it. We'll show it to you. I painted one, and I liked part of it, and then part of it I didn't like, and I told John I'm going to have to do it over.
Yeah, wait till I zoom out because it's too big.
Okay, he's going to zoom out, and then we'll show it to you, okay? Somebody asked about this. I talked about doing a peacock on a long, say, 16 by 10 canvas. So I designed this one, and I just really like it, which is why I haven't shown it to you.
That's 8 by 20, I think.
That's 8 by 20. So here's my
Wait a
peak.
minute, wait. Let me turn off the palette camera for a second.
Okay.
And back it out. There we go.
Yeah, see, here's my peacock. So anyway, that's the one. So I didn't like it, so that's just why nobody's seen it as a lesson. But I may take part of this and keep going with it. But so far, this is what I have so far.
This one's still in design mode.
I'm in design mode on this because I'm not really a big fan of this one. So,
All right.
So there's that. Now, whoops, I'm sorry, I knocked your
Earthquake. We have an earthquake right here in Texas. You saw it on the film.
Okay, so let's talk for a minute about let's see, where did everything go? Oh yeah, here. Oh yeah.
Oh, you totally disrupted the palette camera now.
I did. I'm sorry. I knocked it with that.
Totally.
I knocked it down.
I bring it back and it's looking over here at the paint. Like, oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I knocked it. There you go. All right. Is it better?
I have no idea. I gotta go back and look at it now.
Okay. Sorry. I had that canvas and I just whapped it. Okay. So we saw this. All right. So we've done. Those of you who just caught it and said, where was the 10-minute, what is she prattling on about? Where's the 10-minute picture? We've already done it. Sorry, there's our 10-minute tree, okay?
Rewind.
And here's another example of a 10-minute tree, but I kind of stopped it there, but you can see the same idea. 10-minute tree, this was the one I showed you. Now we're going to show you how to take some foliage, something like this, and how to start layering it, because now we're not talking about greens anymore. Okay, so again, the same thing applies. You've got to imagine, even if you don't see it, that somewhere in here, right, somewhere in here, there is a tree, okay? You may not see it, okay? If it helps to draw a skeleton of it, that's okay. Maybe you've got some branches coming down from here that you're not seeing where they came from. This is coming off of here like this.
The votes are coming in on the peacock.
Do people like the peacock?
What is wrong with it?
I don't know.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Do
the
you?
tail is gorgeous.
Do you think
what don't you like about it?
Well, I wasn't
It's
sure I liked
beautiful.
the tail. I was just really on the tail. I wasn't
love
sure I
it.
liked
Beautiful
the tail.
Peacock.
Okay. I wasn't sure I liked the tail. I was just thinking, oh, I don't know. It's a funny thing. If you're topping a Renoir or something, you're going, well, it's a Renoir. How bad could it be? Well, whatever's your own stuff, you're going, I don't know if I like it. We all do it, just going, I did it, I don't know if I like it. All right, so now I'm going to say I've got this tree coming this way, okay? And I want you to see that, and we're just going to put something here underneath it for the sake of argument, okay? So even though you actually aren't going to see this tree, the branches, okay, you're not going to see it, have an idea of where it's going. And so then you're going to sit there and say, okay, so it's in fall. The trees, everybody's seen fall, I'm sure. But just to reiterate, for those of you who may not have seen fall, well, people may have lived somewhere they haven't seen it. What happens is, first, I've tried to remember, maybe you never noticed, is that you don't wake up one morning and all the trees are orange, okay? It's a gradual process. In fact, years ago, Cinnamon and I were in France. We had rented this house up in the mountains. It was right after 9/11. And we rented this house for 6 weeks up in the mountains above Carcassonne. And I don't know, I guess we were about 45 minutes out of Carcassonne. We had this little winding road that took us up into the mountains. And when we first got there, it started snowing. And man, were we in a panic because we didn't have snow tires or anything. Apparently it wasn't ever going to snow like that. But we didn't know. It was a strange place for us. And so anyway, what happened is that it started to be fall. Well, we could watch the color start at the top of the mountain as the leaves started to change. This was November. And then it just kept happening. It slowly, as we lost elevation as you drive down, it took a while for the fall to happen, and it was the most interesting color change. So you're going to start with maybe a little bit of brown leaves, kind of they've already kind of come and died. It's a little bit of burnt sienna and maybe a little bit of cad red medium, maybe a little yellow, maybe a little brown, maybe a tiny bit of purple. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to say that in here, I'm going to just start saying, in here I've got some brown leaves, and these are these little bits. I'm starting with my darker color first, okay? And then maybe out here, remember I need some colors underneath these branches. Now I'm going to cover this the same way I did if I was making a green tree, except for instead of dark green, I'm saying that this is dark. And the trick is try not to do all the same colors. So I've got some brown, and now I'm going to tap some lighter orange on top of the brown where the light might be hitting it. Okay.
Rachel's asking a question. Where can I obtain the ultramarine blue red shade? Jerry's doesn't have it anymore.
Well, it's normally it's just ultramarine blue. Everybody else on the planet just does ultramarine blue. Liquitex is the only ones that went ahead and did ultramarine blue red. And they used to just do ultramarine blue, and then they got crazy and they did ultramarine blue red and green shade, ultramarine blue. And it was the print's really small too. Got to have glasses to even see it. You get home with the wrong tube really fast. And if you can't find it, use the others. It's okay. But it's just everybody else just calls it ultramarine blue. So it's Liquitex. You probably find it at Michael's or anywhere. Everybody else just calls it ultramarine blue. And Liquitex got tricky with theirs. Does that make sense? Liquitex just got in there and got tricky. So I know I've got some of this color in here like that. So this is my undercolor, see? Like that little, notice how I'm overlapping the brush strokes, okay? And then I'm gonna just take some yellow and some cad red medium, okay? And just for the fun of it, I'm gonna just come over here like this and put some leaves on the ground. Now if I've got leaves on the ground, all right? If I've got leaves on the ground, they're going to go, or slitting in water, wherever, they're going this direction. If you have a leaf going like that, that indicates it's falling. So the direction of your leaves make a difference. So mostly I keep them, if not flat, at least kind of slightly curved like this. I don't have them going straight down. I don't have them going that way, okay? All right, so I'm saying there's that. And then I might want a few green ones. So what if there are a few little green ones in here? So let's start with some darker green first.
Now, is that a reflection down there? Because Lynn's asking a question. Are there rules about how reflections are made and done?
Yeah, there's rules about reflections too, and we'll talk about those. So here's some dark. There are reflections are usually, now those happen to be leaves just sitting on top of a pond. Reflections are generally slightly lighter and less and more gray than what they're reflecting. So if you were say painting a red barn and it was sitting above a pond, and you were showing some of the red barn in the pond, you would put some brown or something in that red, make it less bright than the barn. Okay. All right, so I need that a little bit darker. That's a little bright, so we're going to put a little more blue with that. There's our darker green, right, like that. Maybe I'll put some in here like this. Maybe under here like that. Going to put, because they don't turn all at once, right? Okay, everybody's good with that, right? Don't turn all at once. Now I take maybe some yellow oxide in yellow, and while this is still wet, okay, barely touch it now because you're talking about wet. I'm going to tap that on there. A little bit of paint on the brush like this, just on one side. Barely touch it like that. And on the top of these, just like we did with the other, the very tops are going to be lighter than the bottom, okay? Now, all right, so green and red are opposite each other on the color wheel. We've all talked about that. Here's a color wheel. Let me just move my water. It's a color wheel. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that if you try to put wet red over wet green, you get a muddy color. So if your trees and everything are coming out muddy, you're not drying enough. You can get away with a lot, but you can't get away with that. So if I've noticed that my green was right next to that orangey brown color. It wasn't in it, okay? So I can put, as long as I avoid that green, I'm okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and some cad red medium now and make kind of a bright orange color. If I put the tiniest bit of burnt sienna in it, that will tone it down just a little, okay? And I want to come on top of these leaves now. See these little brown ones? I want to come on top of these, and I'm going to say here's here's some brighter leaves. Now this is brighter than those. Maybe I'll bring it in here too, like that. These are brighter than those, like that. Okay, like that. Maybe I need something in here like this. Okay, because what we're doing is we're just building up different colors. Okay, that's what we're doing. And yellow being the last thing. Here's a little yellow oxide. We can almost go do that. Now that's a little slightly brighter still. Little yellow oxide. That's slightly brighter still than the orange. You see the yellow oxide's brighter. So if I'm putting some yellow over here on top of this, that's lighter than the light orange. Okay. I can probably get away with going over some of the green too, like that. Okay. Now, let's keep going with this. Let's just say I have some bright yellow right here like this. Just a little yellow branches, and I'm going to come back in here like this. Now, picked up a little green because that green was wet. I might come over here, a few little dots like this. Come down here like this, a few little, yellow leaves back down in here. Okay. How about up higher? So let's take a little white now and add it to the yellow oxide. Now I've got a lighter yellow still. Do you see that? Out here on top. This is slightly lighter than what I just did. I mean, you can, for instance, depending on how wet stuff is, let's go back to yellow oxide now. I want a little bit of yellow oxide back in here, like that. Little tiny branches. And then let's go back to burnt sienna. And I need to put a little bit of that brown, almost a brown orange underneath it, like that. Just going to say you'll need some darker color underneath that,
Ginger,
like there. Yes.
Can you hold your hand under the camera and flip it over so we can see how you're holding your brush?
Holding my brush right like this.
Now flip your hand over so we can see the three-dimensional. Rotate it around, nice and slow. Be a hand model there. There you go.
Right like that. So, and I'm holding the brush at its edge. So I'm using the knife blade, and I'm bending it here. Can you get real close, and I'll show you?
I can get real close.
Okay, so what I'm doing here, like here's some paint on one side of the brush. Let me move everything out of the way here. Things are in my way, and they're starting to annoy me. So
look out, Sammy. Things are going to be thrown shortly.
Yeah, things are, Ginger's annoyed. All right, so now, look, I've got, you put paint on one side of your, even on both sides of your brush. You can pinch your brush, then load it with paint, pinch it, then start with one side of the brush, like this. Now, see where my two fingers are here, or my thumb's here? Now, when I touch it, I'm almost bending it over to the side, and I'm using just the sharp point of this and adding these little brushes and tap, 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 almost like a little woodpecker. Tap, 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 tap. Okay? And same thing here. Tap, 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 tap. Now, remember I told you that yellow really only paints over white? So it's painting over the purple, but the purple's muting it somewhat. So you don't even have to, in something like this, you don't even have to push, glaze back the yellow, because just by going over the purple, you can see what's happening. It's pushing it back a little bit. Now I want to have a little bit more orange, so I'm going to tap a little, and that's a little bit brighter. Let's take a little orange, that's Cad Red Medium now, and let's mix it with a tiny bit of yellow oxide, like that, maybe 75% Cad Red Medium, and let's brighten up some of these now. Let's just see what I'm doing here. I'm brightening up some of these colors right on top, because this is all about layers. Acrylics have a tendency to dry darker. So now I'm kind of dispersing through our picture here and layering in the colors, okay? All right, totally layering everything in like that. Now back over here, let's see, I guess we could kind of come off the canvas a little bit, right? Now I'm going to take some burnt umber and some ultramarine blue, I think. Now I'm going to come down over here like this, just under my tree. I'm just going to show you what happens here. I'm just going to we're erasing the purple now. And I'm just going to come to here at the side. No white on the brush. Burnt umber, ultramarine blue. And we're going to just, I don't know why we got any red on there. Okay. Here we go. So I'm just going to come back here and say that this is some darker parts of our tree that you're just not even seeing here on the side, and maybe even under here a little bit. Okay.
Mary's asking, would it be easy, would drying each layer be necessary?
Well, sometimes, the question is, do you dry each layer? Sometimes when you don't dry a layer, but you might, for instance, the orange goes over the yellow, changes colors a little bit. What you really have to be careful, I would have dried probably the green. You might want to dry the green, but because like even here, and you want to make sure your brush is really clear, because you see if your brush isn't clean, which with mine wasn't when I went in there, it had some of the color from underneath. Here, I'm just going to put another bit of dark color in there, and I'm poking a hole through my tree now for the birds. Now let me just take some phthalo blue and white, and I'm going to just show you what happens here. Now I'm going to come in here like this, and I'm just going to put in a bit of a sky, and maybe a little bit of purple in that sky too. That's pretty, kind of purple with some phthalo blue. Mix that color like that. See, it's that color. So I didn't want that to be dry, okay? So and this is all sort of impressionistic painting. See, I'm just going over this dried background, and that's too wet to put the light blue in, but I can come up this way and say, here's my sky, like this, okay? And then the same thing down in here. If I wanted to say this was water down in here, I might come with a brighter blue and come right next to this. But all these brush strokes, please notice, are going sideways because we're saying they're water, all right? I'm saying that's water. Do you see how we're getting this tree in? We're saying all this is water, maybe a little bit of yellow into that blue, a little bit of phthalo, maybe got a little bit of a turquoise color now, turquoise being the complement of orange. So sometimes you want to vary the blues, and this is why, somebody said, how do you paint, how does impressionistic painting work? This is how impressionistic painting works. A little tiny brush strokes. Remember, the impressionists, nothing dried for them. So we're coming over here like that. I just keep lapping it like this and layering it. And as I went ahead and painted this picture, you can kind of see it. And then you can kind of see this one as I did this one. Can you see now how this was painted? Does that make sense, how this was painted?
Layers upon layers.
Just layers upon layers. Now, it's not necessarily, you're not talking about a 10-minute tree anymore, okay? But that's okay, too. It doesn't all have to be fast, but 10 minutes to learn how to do a tree, because now you know, right? Now, here's some dark blue. I'm going to come under here.
The blue that you're currently made up, what's the combination you used to create that gorgeous blue?
Well, I got to tell you, this is a funny story. I had an agent, and her name was Acadriana, because everybody from her planet was called Aka something.
From her planet?
Planet. She was a walk-in from another planet. She
Okay.
took over this body.
I see.
And but she was a really good art agent, and she could sell my art really everywhere. But you just had to, people have some unusual belief systems. Really ask them when you analyze it. So it just was one that probably most of us had never heard, but who's to say? Okay. But anyway, so she'd say things like, "Make me just crazy." She'd make me crazy. She'd say, "Oh, do me another painting and do that pretty blue like the one you did last time." What blue would that be? Well, I don't know. That real pretty blue you did. I mean, the others were just junk. So all the other paintings you got were junk, and I just did one with some pretty blue. No, that's not what I meant. Well, it's very hard. It's like trying to tell a hairdresser how you want your hair without a picture. So here's the thing with these blues. If you haven't seen my video on YouTube, Adventures in Blue, I show you all the blues you can buy. And that I got all the blues, and we showed you what they did. And then I'll tell you, I end up with using basically two blues, phthalo blue and ultramarine blue, and pretty much making everything else, even though everybody has their favorite colors. And you saw that we wanted to go more turquoise. We did phthalo blue, white, and a bit of yellow. We wanted to do, we added a little purple to phthalo blue and white and got a different color. We added a little bit of ultramarine blue in here and got a little shadow color, okay? Because phthalo blue is the color of the Pacific Ocean. Think of P, the Pacific starts with P and phthalo starts with P, Phthalo, Pacific Ocean, and they both start with P. So you can remember this, it's like Hawaii. Phthalo blue is like Hawaii and tropical, and ultramarine blue is the Atlantic Ocean. And when you mix yellow with phthalo blue, you get bright greens, Hawaii greens, in your face, bright golf course green. And ultramarine blue and yellow make army greens. You can camouflage tanks with it. So sometimes you want army greens. The farther things are away, the grayer the greens. Ultramarine blues are a very good color when you want army greens. And so, and see, look what it's doing. And then this is nothing dried. Look at that. See how it's making that really pretty blue back in here. I'm saying there's a little bit of blue underneath this picture right here. See that? So that's basically how how you paint, how you layer stuff. And then remember that your acrylics dry darker. So here's some pure cad red medium now. Now look what happened. Here, just let me get a little bit of that. Here's some pure cad red medium on top of a lighter color. See how much brighter that is? And what if I were to put it up in here like that? Just a few dots of cad red medium. You can kind of overdo that in a hurry, but I'm just saying, you see how much brighter that looks. So there's a lot of different oranges. There's some different yellows. I use cad yellow medium all the time, but did you know you can't mix cad yellow light by just adding white to cad yellow medium? So this is called Bismuth Yellow. I'm just going to show you that. Okay, here's let's see if I can get some out of there. Here you go. Come on, out of the tube you go. Here we go. There we go. Just a lot more than I wanted, but that's all right. Here's a little bismuth yellow, and I'm going to rinse my brush. Now, that's a brighter yellow. Here's some cad yellow next to it. Can you see my palette pretty well, John?
Yeah, I can see your palette lovely.
Can you? Okay, so what was this? Where'd the yellow go? Here. Okay, so that's bismuth, and this is cad yellow medium. Do you see the difference between these two? So now look what happens. Now, if I want to, talking about fall trees and stuff, look what happened when I add some of that color as my highlight, my sun color. See? It's brighter, isn't it? If I add a little tiny bit of that on top of here like that, just remember, you're talking about a light color now. What if I add a little bit of light? Let's see, a little bit of this. It's a little translucent, but look, see, I want to say that there's a few little leaves coming down in here. Let's mix it with some orange and see what we get. Some cad red medium. Let's mix some of that together, see what we get. All right, so here's a little bit of kind of lighter orange, like that. So sometimes, somebody says, when do you want to, when would you buy more yellows? If you were going to do a lot of fall paintings, it wouldn't hurt to have a few extra of those sort of designer yellow colors. I don't think that would hurt at all to have that. And again, because, like, for instance, you see how this kind of dried darker. Now I can come in here with a little bit of white, like this. And because this is slightly wet, it's making what? Kind of a light blue color. All right. So acrylics are all about layering. And every time you either add white or blue, let's take a little bismuth and phthalo blue. Now look at that green. Wow. And white. Now look at that. Ooh, look at that blue. That's a beautiful blue. Look at this one. Put a little more of that bismuth yellow in there. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that turquoise green right in there.
That's a patty color.
That's a beautiful color. And it's kind of cool next to orange, okay? That's pretty, right? So, when do you decide what colors you want in your picture? This is where being an artist really kind of lets you play with color. You might just consider doing a black and white printout of something and then adding your own color and having fun with it. So if you think you might, that's kind of what we're doing today. And then if you wanted to say that you had some leaves floating on top of the water, again, they have to be sitting like that. And you just, this is when you dry it, because you're not going to really get an orange leaf sitting on top of there. But you'd have to dry it or barely touch it when you dropped it on there. Okay? And again, part of me wants to brighten, this is getting darker, so part of me wants to brighten these leaves coming up this way.
So this is
where the lights are
a
coming.
little bit as it's drying too, right?
Yeah, so this is, so, when you don't want to be putting wet orange over blue, because you're just going to get a mess, okay?
Get mud.
So You can absolutely get mud. You can get away with a little yellow over orange though. See, like right up on top of here, I could drop in some like that and have a little highlight of lighter yellow right there. See, I can get away with that. Just remember that the lighter colors are from the top and it's darker underneath, and make sure you have enough darker underneath colors. That's real important. And you know, how dark can you make them? Pretty dark. Here's some burnt umber and cad red medium. That makes a really dark brown. See that? Kind of a dark reddish brown, kind of a burgundy brown. It's all right. Keep playing with your colors. So, that being said, here's what the completed picture looks like.
We back it out.
Okay, so that's what the completed picture looks like.
And that's the one that's on the lesson for this week.
Yeah, that's the lesson for this week for our members. Incidentally, it is the centennial. July 1st is the 150th centennial for Canada. All right, and this last week we just released it this weekend. It took us a little while, but this was the release for our members. So it's called Canadian Cabin in the Canadian Rockies. This was the release for our members at Ginger Cook Live. Was a Canadian, this little cabin with the Canadian Rockies. And then I'd realized that last year we had done a really nice, it was from Banff, Canada, and here's this one. That's one of the lessons on our...
currently on the website.
Currently on the website, but I think these would make a nice pair. Don't you think, if you did them the same size? I think these two would be really pretty hanging side by side if you made them the same size. And again, you can see where the trees, again, we're talking about trees now, you can tell where my light's coming from, darker on the bottom, highlights on the top. When it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a pine tree or you're talking about this kind of tree, it's the same deal. Good to know.
The 8-minute tree.
8 minutes tree. So anyway, that's our explanation of how to do fall trees tonight, and I hope that was helpful. And and how to do a 10-minute tree. I think everybody understands more about trees, and this applies to bushes and flowers and all kinds of things. I just want to say one last thing, because I can't have just one thing, right? One last thing. Let me get another little canvas pad here. One last thing. If you're talking about flowers, okay, I just want to say a thing. It doesn't really matter if we're talking about trees or flowers. All right, so we're going to say here's a flower pot, okay? All right, let's just do that real quick, because this is, let's make a gray flower pot, which is we're going to put cad red medium and blue together, and we're going to make in white, we're going to make a gray flower pot because we're on a background, right? Okay, there's our flower pot. And then I want one side of the flower pot to be slightly darker because it's in shadow. Yeah, everybody's with me on that. So we're going to say that this is our darker flower part of the pot. I'm going to wipe the brush, just going to then use the side of our brush like this and kind of blend that in. So it's still wet, okay? Saying that there's our darker shadow, okay? And then I'm going to say that there's a shadow underneath the pot so it doesn't look like it's floating, okay? Like that. Light's coming from this direction, okay? Everybody's with me so far. And then maybe I've got a lip on the flower pot like that. There you go. All right, so he's with me so far, and then maybe it's a little bit lighter right here, but that's too wet to do much about it. Okay, so now what? So if we were going to do some sort of flowers in this pot, it's not any different than doing these trees, okay? I'm telling you, once you get this will just save you hours of painting and painting and painting over it, drying it, painting over it, sanding it, painting it over it. All right, so how are we going to make a dark green, ultramarine blue, a little purple, a little yellow? All right, dark green. We're going to start here with boom, 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 tap, 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 tap. We're going to say, here's some sort of green foliage. Yeah, everybody's with me? Maybe there's some coming from behind the pot down here like this. We're going to come up here like this. All right, see I'm tapping it in here like that. They're saying green. Right, with me. Now, where's the light coming from? Up here at the top. We said it was coming from this way. So now what's going to happen? We're going to just tap in, just taking yellow while we still can, and we're going to mix it with the colors that are on the wet paint. So that's a little bit too thick, but let's make the paint thicker. There, we can get away with that, right? We're going to say that here's the yellow leaves, or just you know, like that with the dark underneath, okay? Everybody's with me that way? That's just fairly quickly, and if I got it too bright, I'll just punch that into the blue a little bit and make it less bright, okay? And then maybe I want to come over here and do a bright turquoisey green color, like that. Little color surprise here, yeah? All right, just doesn't hurt to add a little something like that. Okay, so good. All right, now we haven't put any flowers in yet, but we've got some greenery. Okay. Now, if we said that any flowers were on petals were on the ground, they can't be looking this way. They have to be sideways and kind of half dead looking. Okay, so we can say this is what happens to my plants. I'll end up there. But okay. And then, so they wouldn't be too bright coming down. You might have a little yellow oxide on it, but they wouldn't be as bright as those because they fell. Now, if I want flowers on here, okay, what I'd have to do is dry this. Okay, so I'm going to do that for a second, John. I'm going to dry this because I think this is real important, okay? And I'll just play a trivia game when I put the hairdryer on. You guys with me for this? Everybody wants to see me dry this and finish this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still got 338 watching.
All right, 2. You got number 2. He's going to ask you a trivia question. We're going to put the dryer on this.
All right, we got her muted, I believe. And number 2 is a what? It's a what question. So I don't believe hers is very loud over me. And we got to look these questions over. Okay, we got one. I'm going to wait until she can hear this too. Let's have an important message from our buddy Sammy. He's always got something to say. Sammy says, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We don't send you emails, and apparently YouTube sends out notices when we come on live late. So subscribe today and beat the crowd. I got the question. I didn't read it because I'm not sure how much they can hear me over the...
Okay, so you want to unmute me?
I did unmute you.
Okay, so all right. So those of you who came in, we showed you how to do this tree, and we showed you how to paint this tree. That's we showed you how to simple ways to do stuff, and it's in the same principle applies. It's you know, whether you're talking about trees like this or something in a flower pot. Okay. Let's see. I kind of smeared that, but that's all right. Doesn't matter. So let's just say I want some flowers on top of that.
You want me to read
So
the
I think what I want is some geraniums. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap some white paint on here like this with using the corner of my brush. Tap, 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 tap like that. And I'm going to just tap some white, just use some geraniums. And then I'm going to say I've got a small one here. And let's see, where did my white's getting a little contaminated. I want blue. Now I want another one right here, okay? So I'm going to tap it on. And I'm just going up and down like this, using kind of some thick paint like that. Up and down like that. It's white. Okay, like that. Maybe I've got one. Let's put a little one right here like that. That'd be good, don't you think? And then how about on the top of this? Let's just get some flowers up here. They're not, you know, some of them could be touching, okay? That would be quite not unreasonable to have some touching. So we got some flowers there. And then let's throw a couple over here. All right, so those are my flowers. Now they're nice, but you wouldn't leave them white like that. You got to put something with them. So if you're saying that, let's take some magenta. Well, we've already got cad red medium out. Do we want naphtha crimson? No, let's just use magenta. Okay, there we go. And we'll mix a little cad red with it. Okay, we'll mix magenta and cad red medium together. That's pretty. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I've got a couple choices. I could dry these. Or while they're still wet, remember my light source is coming from this way. I'm going to tap on into my flowers like this. Do you see that?
And the white's still wet. And
the white's still wet, so it's mixing with these. And you know, I'm doing this fairly thick here, so it's mixing with these. But as I go out here, the more I push it into the white, it'll be lighter. Does that make sense? And if I really goop it on here, it's going to I'll still have a pretty dark flower, see? And the same thing here, I've got a dark flower, but if I wipe the brush off and just keep tapping into the white, it'll turn a little pink on me, see? Because the white's wet. Same thing here, I want a little white flower. then I can goop more paint and say, here's my darker red here. So the dark side, light side, okay? Same thing down here. This is sort of in the shadow, so I'm going to say this is a little darker flower here, okay? Here we go. Now that one doesn't show up at all, does it? It's kind of dark because it doesn't have any white, doesn't have enough white on it. So I can come back with some white and tap in. I mean, you can do this one way or the other. I'm going to tap in some lighter color up here like that. My brush is dirty. And say, here's a little more white. I'm just dropping it on here like that. So there's my white flower, my white highlights on these flowers, okay? And then if I had any petals, they would have to be flat on the ground like that. So when you're doing flowers, they're never just one color. They're always at least two colors, sometimes three colors. Okay, here's a little purple and magenta if I really wanted something dark, right? If I really wanted a shadow side to one of these, now look what happens when I do that, see? Adding a bit of a shadow side to some of these like that. See what a difference that makes? So, and then if I'm saying that happened there, what if I had a little bit of, I'm just saying, what if I had a little bit of a shadow under here? What if I took a little purple and did a darker shadow on the pot? Okay, then maybe a little bit of light with a little bit of yellow in it. Turn this gray still. Here's our gray color. Make a darker color here. Okay, then pinch the brush, blend the side of this together. Make this darker, a little bit of purple. Make this darker. See, I mean, you can keep painting on something once it's dry, and you can sit there and say, I want a little bit of a highlight on the pot here, like that, and then just come back when it's dry and just say, here, I need a little highlight on this pot right like that. I mean, this is really, everybody thinks this is so complicated, they get so impressed, but once you understand how simple this is, you're never going to be impressed again. You're going, oh man, anybody could do this. Really, you just have to explain it, right? So that's what I'm doing for you now. I'm just explaining it. Once you understand it, you pinch the brush and then just tap this lighter color in. Just know that there's a light source, and you don't have to make it up. Just look at a pot and copy it. Find a photograph with a good light source and then copy it, and it'll tell you where to put the colors. It's like a cheat sheet. That's why I encourage you to paint the masters. Tomorrow night we're going to be painting this. These flowers here, okay? We're going to paint this vase, and we're going to show you how to paint the glass and why this is working. But again, everything is layers, okay? Everything is layers, and even something simple like a flower pot is just layers.
Cheryl's asking a question. When you paint, does your regular paint have a little lift on it like these flowers, or am I looking at it wrong?
What?
Does your paints have a little bit of lift? I'm thinking that it's three-dimensional.
Oh, she wants to know if it's yeah. There's a little bit. Yes, there is. That because I layered it on pretty tight there.
So it's very thick.
It's pretty thick right there because I didn't dry it. Otherwise, I would have dried it a little bit. I wanted something really darker under here like that. Let's take some burnt umber and just make that darker.
Someone asked a while ago, and I still remember the question: if you could travel back in time and visit just one artist, who would you visit and why?
Oh.
Na, 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 na.
I don't know, who would I visit? How far back would I have to go? If I could just hang out with them. I got to meet Howard Behrens before he died. He was a current artist, but he's like one of my favorite. And I would have liked to have just hung out in his studio for like a week and just watched him paint.
So you didn't have to go too far back.
I didn't have to go very far back. And I tell you what, we have some pretty great artists that live today. I mean, I like, Vincent Van Gogh was an interesting guy, and he would have been fun to hang out with and just watch what he did and watch him paint because he was so dedicated. I mean, he was very serious about it. You read about what he did, and Monet was really interesting. I don't know. There were some, Michelangelo was a really amazing person. I'd probably
that was Rhonda's question. Thank you,
Rhonda. I mean, you just think about the different people, but we can hang out with their artwork and we can learn so much. So, that's the thing. We can hang out with their artwork and really study it and learn, because it's really, really what you're talking about here. The key thing is lights and darks. And, somebody talks in a monotone. It's so boring like that, right? So people want inflection in a voice. And the same thing you want it in your artwork. You want a light side and a dark side. You want lights and darks, that kind of thing. Acrylics have a tendency to flatten out, even though this looks like it's quite textured. It'll dry pretty flat. If I wanted that to stay that way, I would use like either a modeling paste with the paint or a gel, and then I could get those flowers to just stand up and really look textured. So did we not get the trivia question?
Well, we had, no, it didn't get read.
Okay, would you like to read it real quick before we say goodbye to everybody?
Yes. When a wooden statue is painted in several colors, the technical term to describe it is multicolored, polychrome, or rainbow. Da, 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 da,
We don't need your songies here. That's just no songies. So I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? I'm giving you a choice of 3. You know it has to be one of them.
Wait, let's do it by let's ask the audience.
Let's go to the studio.
Let's go to the studio
Ginger
audience.
would like to ring up somebody as a
consultant. I want to consult and see if I agree with you. Right? Come on, consultants. Let's ask the audience.
When a wooden statue is painted in several colors, the technical term to describe it is multicolored, polychrome, or rainbow.
Okay, actually,
Kim says polychrome. Eric says rainbow. Suzanne says polychrome. Teresa says multicolored. Lori says polychrome. Susan's laughing. Monica's poly. Sue's poly. Judy's poly. What is the question? Poly.
I think it's multicolor.
What a wooden statue is painted in several colors. When a wooden statue is painted in several colors, the technical term to describe it is multicolored, polychrome, or rainbow.
I think it's multicolor. That's my...
Gail is saying rainbow. Manette says multi. Tonia's saying poly, multi, poly, multi. Well,
I'm saying multi.
you're going to go with multi?
I'm going with multi. Am I wrong? Woo!
Correct answer is polychrome. Those that guessed right, 1,000 points added to your collection. Remember, 10 million and you will win nothing. But let us know once you reach 10 million. It has to be, all price points have to be cashed in before the end of the year.
To get a big bunch of nothing, right?
To get a big bunch of nothing.
Hey, congratulations again to you guys that participated in our auction and won one of our imagination claws. Our puzzle auction will be ending at the end of this week. Friday will be midnight Friday.
I've got I can even put
for
up
our puzzles, and which is kind of cool. And we still have still have time to bid on those. We just were trying. We were trying out some new auction software, and I've got to tell you, it works like a champ. If you win the auction, it tells you. We don't have to tell you. We don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and say, hey, you won. The computer tells you and invoices you. And then we notice that you paid and sends you your prize. I mean, it's just nifty. So once you know, this is kind of neat. Later on, we're going to be doing some really fun original paintings from our lessons. Probably later in July, we'll be having another auction with original artwork and some more imagination rags if you guys like those. And thank everybody for playing with us. All right, John, I think this is it. Do we have any final questions we say before we say good night? Remember, in review, we did our tree. We showed you our 10-minute tree. We actually did that in under 10 minutes and showed you the anatomy of a tree.
Let me turn off a couple palettes here.
Okay, I'm going to move my palette now out of the way. Watch it. It's getting moved. I'm going to move some stuff over here. We did an anatomy of a tree. I showed you briefly how you might take a bush like this in the fall and create all these fall colors on it, and the layers of how you do it. And we showed you this, and I showed you also the same principle applies with when you're painting anything, flowers, anything. Figure out a light source. The light's got to hit certain things, and everything else stays dark. And your flowers need to be two colors. So if you remember that, you're going to find it much easier to paint some of these pictures. So
there you go.
Easy peasy.
Easy
Now,
peasy.
last question before we say goodnight.
Thank you for your lesson. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow night. I hope you enjoy the vase and I hope you had fun. Comments and likes and subscriptions are lovely. And the comments you made now don't show up. You know, anything chat you did now doesn't show up. But if you want to come back later and add some comments, that's fine. And share this art, share these videos with people. We appreciate it. Shout the world that Ginger Cook Live is the place where you can really learn how to paint.
And learn about a little art history and things.
Yeah,
A full educational channel.
and sometimes we're even amusing.
Uh,
Not so much tonight, but sometimes we're fun.
there you go. Hey, we see the boys are back. Chester and Sammy have come in. Well, good night, Ginger.
Good night. They're dressed up. They're up to something, you guys. They've got the Christmas attire on. There's going to be an announcement about something to do with Christmas soon. Night, you guys. Night, John. Night, Sammy. Night, Chester.
Night, Ginger, Chester, and Sammy.